consideration, Senate File 82, Senate File 90, and what's the other one? Senate File 112, and we'll take them up in that order. Karen, would you please call the roll?
Thank you, sir. For Senate Appropriations on February 22nd, Senator Guru,
Here.
Senator Kinski,
Excused.
Senator Steinmetz. Here. Senator Perkins,
Excused.
Vice President Hicks.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, first bill for our consideration is Senate File 82, Supplemental Water Development Funds. This is a re-referral from the Joint Ag, Public Lands and Water Committee. The only thing that the Appropriations Committee can deal with currently in this bill is just the appropriation. With that, do I have a motion to
Move the bill.
move the bill? Bill's been moved and seconded.
And Mr. Chairman, just for clarification for anyone online, we did work on this bill the other day and took public testimony, so we're not denying anyone. We just had already closed that part, right?
Yeah, and so I will invite the Director of Water Development up if he's got any comments that he would like to provide on the bill. The Director and the Acting Director and the Acting State Engineer, and you guys do a lot of acting over there in that side. So, any comments, or would you want to walk us through the bill?
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe we have any comments.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I share the same.
all right. Well, committee, I've got a few amendments I'd like to propose to the bill.
Okay.
All right. So page 1, line 1, or excuse me, on line 9. We would strike $7 million appropriation.
Okay.
You have that, Karen? All right, page 2. On line 5. Strike the $2 million to water on lane 5, strike the $2 million from that. And then the next one is on page 3. Line 6. Would take the, strike the $2 million on that, Karen. And then the next one is on page 4. Line 12. Strike the $10,800,000 from that. And then on page 5, lines 10 and 11, strike $6,500,000. And then on page 5, line 15 and 16, strike the new language on the $6,500,000. And then on page 6, we'll strike the appropriation from the general fund on line 5 and 6, strike the 35 million there. And then on line 6, or excuse me, page 6, line 18 and 19, strike the $30 million there. And that would be the extent of my amendments. Senator Guru.
Back on page 4.
Page 4.
You struck line 11 and 12. What about line 17?
17.
You want to keep that? Or because of what you did on 12, it cuts that.
Yeah, and so we can only deal with the appropriation, and that brings in additional language that just cap that. So
Okay.
that's
All
something
right.
that I
That's
think that would
something-
have to be
okay.
done by the standing committee.
Just-
Yep, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if we're not appropriating money for these, could you just strike the entire body of that? Because that is an amendment to an existing statute. So I think if you just remove that all,
The whole section.
Section 3.
Yeah, and typically that's what would happen if we were the standing
I'll
committee
bet,
here.
because-
We can only deal with the appropriation.
Gotcha.
But what'll happen is we'll strike the appropriation, which makes that section unnecessary. And so we'll probably bring committee the whole amendment to clean the bill up. Then. But go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question then on the groundwater studies, all of section 3, where we struck the old appropriation and then inserted the old appropriation will then come back, correct?
Yeah, because that's already in the existing.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we ended up with our original appropriations for those reservoirs.
So
and-
what the net effect of this will be is it's the status quo, because that section will just go away. It won't modify what you currently have in the budget or into the omnibus water bills either. It just goes. And so that'll be the net effect. It's just because the appropriations committee can only deal with the appropriation. We'll work with the standing committee. It'll basically come out and that section's just going to disappear from the bill. So members of the committee and those here in the audience, the net effect is this is as a result of those actions, we will have left $25 million in there for the Fontenelle Reservoir account. We will have left $21.8 million in there for the GID tunnels 1 and 2, and we'll have left $30 million in there for the Rockaway Dam.
Mr. Chairman, I'd second your amendment.
And moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I have one other amendment on the bill. When we go into the Wapriel on page 3. Karen, I think this is going to go into. Well, let me see. Actually, I don't think we can do that. That's outside the appropriations committee privy. So we'll work with the standing committee to bring in language on that. It says that if there's federal funds available, that appropriation would revert back to the general. So I know there's a potential application for infrastructure money under the infrastructure bill. Is that correct, Director?
Mr. Chairman, that is correct. For CARE Act projects, which LaPrel would fall under, there's potentially $100 million and the governor has a letter in requesting that funding. We just haven't heard back yet.
So what's the estimated total cost of the project?
We've been using 60 to 80 million, but I'd prefer to use 80 million just to be on the conservative side.
Yeah, given recent price inflation, 45% increase for diesel fuel and materials, that probably a wise move. So
and
anyway,
Mr. Chairman,
that's the bill. Karen, would you call the roll?
On Senate File 82 as amended, Senator Group,
aye.
Senator Kinsky excused, Senator Steinmetz,
Aye.
Senator Perkins excused, Vice President Hicks,
Aye.
3 aye, 2 excused.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Unless you want to stay for sage grouse or capital, no, general government reports, that will surely get your interest. Next bill for our consideration is Capital Finance Select Committee membership, Senate File 90. Members of the committee, I'll just walk you through the bill. All this does is expand the membership on the Capital Finance Committee by 1. Currently, there's 6 members, 6 appointed by the president, and 6 appointed by the speaker. This would just add one more member to the committee. The rationale behind doing that is that there's a lot of very important things that we're looking at with the $26 billion that the state currently has under investment. The Capital Finance Committee oversees and makes recommendations on policies affecting how those $26 billion are invested. And what we're trying to do is build a little more institutional knowledge in the legislature by adding another member to the Capital Finance Committee. So, members, any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. So it says, are we adding one member or are we adding two? Because it says the president of the Senate shall appoint 7. And then it says the speaker of the House shall appoint 7. So it looks like we're adding.
A total of 2.
Okay.
One member from each chamber.
Okay, thank you.
So it's a balanced committee.
So 14 members. Mr. Chairman,
Correct.
14 members. One member of presiding party, one member of appointed by each presiding officer shall be from the minority political party. So what you're telling me is that when the Democrats take over the Senate, we're gonna have to throw 5 good Republicans, smart, right-thinking Republicans right off this committee just because of this bill. Oh, that's a shame. I don't know if I'm. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. You know, and I'm not married to that. You know, you could always bring amendment on that, Senator. You know, the intent here is just to increase the membership regardless of party affiliation. So that probably could be, see what you want to do there.
Well, if you're asking,
So,
seeing as how you're practically begging me,
well, what I would suggest is if I get to get somebody to move the bill.
Mr. Chairman, do we want to see if there's any public comment first?
Well,
There-
is there any public comment? No public comment. Public comment
The
closed.
bill.
Bill's been moved.
Second,
Second. All right. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment. Based on the conversation, I would, and what the true intent of this bill is, I would ask that we strike on page 2. After, just on line 6. On line 6, after the word house, put a period and delete the rest of the line. And so in other words, provided, and then down through line 7, 8, and 9.
So say, Mr. Chairman, is that a period on line 6 after House?
House, right, correct. So in other words, say appointments to the committee by each presiding officer should reflect as nearly as possible the percentage of elected membership of the majority and minority parties of each house, period.
So, Mr. Chairman, a question, what would that look like right now? One from each.
So I think currently the makeup of the committee, there's one member from the minority party from both houses.
So it'd be the same as we are now.
It would make no change currently, but then as the membership changes, however it would change, it would be that
Percentage.
language up at the top, it would be reflective of the total membership of the body. More, no less.
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, I'll move that.
So the amendment's been moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second it. Mr. Chairman, it's your bill, so
Okay, let's vote on the amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Back on the bill. You have that, Karen?
Question on the bill.
Karen, will you call the roll?
Yes, on Senate File 90 as amended, Senator Guru,
Aye.
Senator Kinsky excused, Senator Steinmetz,
Aye.
Senator Perkins excused, Vice President Hicks,
Aye.
3 aye, 2 excused.
All right, next bill for our consideration is Senate File 112, General Government Reports, sponsored by the Senate Appropriations Committee.
Mr. Chairman, I presented this bill on the floor, so I'd be glad to go over it if you need me to.
Would you do that, Senator?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're just requiring some reports based on some of the appropriations that we've made. Section 1 and 2 relate to the governor's office. One for the infrastructure grants, since we're giving them a at-will employee for the purposes of securing those infrastructure grants. The second in section 2 would be the WIP initiative, since we're requiring a report before we expend the rest of the funding that was requested. In section 3, 4, and 5, these are reports coming from the state treasurer's office. We've also been building up their back office, and so those are reports there regarding that. And then section 6 on page 4 is the tourism board with regard to Quebec 1, which is a new destination tourism spot that we've been developing over the years. Section 7 is the Department of Corrections on page 5. And section 8 is also Department of Corrections reports that we're requiring. And that pretty much does it for the bill. Just a lot more work for the Appropriations Committee.
Discussion? So the only thing I wonder on some of these, Senator, is as to whether we would want to consider sunsetting some of these. And particularly the ones dealing with, say, the governor's office, where it deals with specific grants for infrastructure. In other words, eventually those monies are not going to be there. So why wouldn't we go ahead and just put a sunset provision in some of these, knowing that that's specific to tied to those federal funds?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Make it, well, like with the WIP initiative, that's a 2-year thing, so maybe put that out 2 years.
Yeah, I'd put it out there a few years longer than that, knowing that there may be some lag time from the time the money's appropriated to expended, but I just know that we report everybody to death and then we don't sunset these things. And so they're submitting reports on things that may not even be applicable.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I guess my question would be, it says during the 23-24 fiscal biennium in section 1, in section 2, the same language during the 23-24 fiscal biennium, which is on line 5, page 2. So we do have some dates in there for those two. And I would think that those correlate with the report. I don't know why it would go on. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, I think you could make that interpretation on those sections. I'm just going through the rest of them here real quick. So on section 3, state treasurers, effective beginning September 30 and ending July 1st. So that's already got a sunset provision in there. Section 4, that has a time frame in that.
Mhm.
All right.
There's a time frame in sections 5 as well, it looks like.
So basically, the intent of this is to be a bill that we bring every biennium along with. So, because we all know that these were always in footnotes in the budget each biennium, that some we carried over, some we didn't. So this is just intended to be for this biennium, and then the next biennium, we'll take a look at it again.
That's the way I read it, because every one of them's got either a 23, 24 date in there. So some of them, there's a couple of those that might run out 2 bienniums, but that's it.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the only one that I see that doesn't have I mean, it says no later than June 30th, 2024 on page 4, line 18. That is the Quebec one. That's the only one that I see that, I mean, I think we're just asking for one report there. but-
Yep. All right, committee, what's your pleasure? Oh, I'll open it up. Any public comment?
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Heather Babbitt. I'm the Deputy Director of the Department of Corrections, and I really just came today to convey that our two reports are part of prior session bills, House Bill 31 and House Bill 53, and we have been reporting on those efforts, and we will be happy to continue to do so.
All right, committee, any questions?
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's your pleasure, committee.
Move the bill.
Second.
Bill's been moved and seconded. Karen, will you call the roll?
Yes, sir. On Senate File 112, Senator Garu,
Aye.
Senator Kinski excused, Senator Steinmetz,
Aye.
Senator Perkins excused, Vice President Hicks.
Aye.
3 aye, 2 excused.
So I'm assuming Senator Steinmetz, you'll carry this on the floor?
Yes.
And I will do Senate File 90 on the floor. And then I'll have to do the standing committee amendment, and then we'll turn it back over to the chair of the Ag Committee.
Okay.